Hello, I am Blaze, and welcome back to Warframe. This is the Baza, a newly available submachine gun weapon and the first new submachine gun since the original Grakata line. Available for research through the Clan Dojo's Tenno lab, and requiring a mastery rank of 7 to craft and own, the Baza is in many ways an upgrade to the Grakata line. A set of weapons which I have previously lauded but have aged somewhat poorly since then with the game's continuously evolving standards and needs for high-level content. With the Baza featuring a higher base damage, critical chance, critical damage multiplier, reload speed and accuracy than any of the Grakatas, and comes with an integrated suppressor to give it a silent noise rating, meaning you can use it with Avara while she's in Prowl as is with impunity. The Baza does fall behind somewhat in the status chance department at just 10%, but it remains fairly workable. Its magazine size is also somewhat small at 40 rounds, but it does have 800 rounds in reserve, and the 1.4 second reload time keeps uptime favourable. It also has a more easily controlled, but still extremely high fire rate of 16.67 rounds per second, which couples well with its minimal recoil to let you deliver a stream of lead on whatever you're aiming at. On top of that, it comes with one Madurai polarity by default in its mod slots, so that forma you spend to craft it does make itself useful. Its largely impressive statistics do come at the cost of damage degradation at mid-range and beyond. Full damage is only dealt up to 22 meters away from the muzzle, with damage being reduced to half at 34 meters and beyond. This does hurt it somewhat and prevents its minimal recoil from being as much of a bonus as it could be, but in most missions outside of the Plains of Eidolon, or the few especially large map tiles on other missions, you will be within 20 to 30 meters of most enemies, so its damage fall-off ends up not getting in the way too much. Also, as with most bullet hoses, ammunition economy is also rather a concern. If you don't use a carrier sentinel to take advantage of its ammo box ammo mutation, you may want to consider including a rifle ammo mutation in the Baza's mod selection. That, or ensure that you have an ample stock of ammo restore gear items. Between all of its stats, I would even go so far as to say that the Baza isn't too far off from the Soma in terms of its power, especially now that Hunter Munitions exists to give critical focused primaries a way to almost ignore armor. The Soma Prime still wins out in general, but given that the Soma Prime is vaulted, the Baza will likely be an attractive option for people looking for ways to shred through enemies. After a certain point it does start to suffer, particularly against especially bulky high-level Eximus units, but it is still easily capable of dealing with sortie-level enemies. It even keeps its performance up against the ludicrous example of level 150 corrupted heavy gunners, even with minimal armor stripping ability. Though if this is your use case, you may want to either include some way to remove armor in the rest of your loadout or look elsewhere. In terms of its overall design, the decision to give the Baza a silent noise rating is a little bit perplexing. It does have its uses since you won't be alerting enemies through the level readily, and as I have said, you can easily use it with Avara without having to sacrifice a mod slot, but since it has little damage per shot, you can't really use it for stealth kills at all. The first hit will usually alert the enemy you're targeting if it doesn't kill them in one shot, and while it is easily capable of killing them before they alert their surrounding allies, you won't be getting any stealth bonus multiplier going with the Baza. This is more of an oddity than a genuine problem, though. Its sound design does also mean its silent rating doesn't make that much sense, strictly speaking. Clearly our ammunition choice is less than ideal for noise reduction, as a crack can be heard from each fire round, indicative of using supersonic ammunition. This makes sense when dealing with armor, of course, since a high velocity is required to beat armor effectively, but it should also make the suppressor much less effective than it would be with subsonic ammunition. But that's just me being pedantic about firearms. In terms of the average gameplay experience, the sound design is extremely satisfying, and sounds quite convincing as a submachine gun with a built-in suppressor. As you may be able to gather, the Baza is quite good. If you're looking for a submachine gun, or just a fast crit-focused weapon, this ought to be worth your time, forma, and Orokin catalysts.